There was once a man so wealthy that when he traveled across nations, he didn't just make an impression, he changed entire economies, not through war, not through conquest, but through gold. His name was Mansa Musa, and even today, historians struggle to fully measure his wealth because it wasn't just large, it was beyond calculation. To understand how powerful he was, you have to go back to a time when most of the world had never even heard of his empire, the 14th century, a time when Europe was still developing, when trade was limited and information moved slowly. But in West Africa, there was an empire quietly rising, the Mali Empire, and at its center was one thing: gold. Not small amounts, not controlled reserves, but massive deposits stretching across the land. This was the foundation of Mansa Musa's power. But wealth alone doesn't create influence. It's what you do with it that changes everything. And that brings us to the journey that made him legendary. In 1324, Mansa Musa began a pilgrimage to Mecca, a religious journey that every Muslim is expected to make at least once. But what he turned it into was something the world had never seen. He didn't travel quietly. He traveled with tens of thousands of people. Imagine that, an entire moving city crossing the desert. Soldiers, servants, scholars, officials, and then the gold. Hundreds of camels, each carrying massive amounts of it. Gold bars, gold dust, gold everywhere. Everywhere he went, he gave it away. To the poor, to rulers, to strangers. At first, this made him famous. People saw him as generous, powerful, almost mythical. But then something unexpected happened. The value of gold started to drop, because when too much of something enters the market, it loses its value. And Mansa Musa, without intending to, flooded entire regions with gold. Cities like Cairo felt the effects for years. Prices shifted, markets destabilized, economies struggled to recover, all because of one man's wealth. Think about that. He didn't need an army. He didn't need conflict. His money alone had that level of impact. But this is where the story gets deeper, because this wasn't just about wealth, it was about understanding power. Most people think power comes from control, from force, from authority, but real power comes from influence. And Mansa Musa had influence at a scale few people in history have ever reached. Yet even with all that power, he made a mistake that reveals something important. Wealth, without strategy, can create unintended consequences, because after his journey, he realized what had happened. He had disrupted entire economies, and to fix it, he had to borrow gold back at high interest. The richest man in history borrowing money to repair the effects of his own wealth. That's the paradox. Having more doesn't guarantee control. And that's the lesson. Most people believe that money solves problems, but at scale, money creates new ones. And if you don't understand how to manage it, those problems grow. So ask yourself, if you had that level of wealth, would you control it, or would it control you? Because wealth is not just about accumulation. It's about discipline, strategy, and awareness. Mansa Musa had everything, but even he wasn't immune to mistakes. And that's what makes his story so powerful. Comment gold if this changed your perspective. And in the next video, we'll break down exactly how he built that level of wealth, because that part of the story is even more important.